She said it lightly, almost kindly, the way people do when they want credit for not being cruel. Try not embarrass us tonight. Not me. Embarrass. As if embarrassment were a contagious condition I carried, like something medical she'd warned the family about in advance. I nodded. I always nodded. That reflex had been trained early, polished over years of family gatherings where I was simultaneously necessary and suspect. I was the one who remembered details, followed instructions, handled logistics. I was also the one whose presence required disclaimers. The car was still running. The venue's brick facade glowed warm in the early evening, strings of lights already on. Through the windshield, I could see silhouettes moving inside, people setting up chairs, adjusting centerpieces, laughing easily. It was my cousin's engagement party. Supposedly a celebration. My aunt pressed the venue key into my palm, along with the small envelope of final payments. "You've got the cake and the gifts, right?" "Yes," I said. "Good. Just, you know." She smiled tightly. "Let's keep it smooth." I knew what she meant. Don't say anything strange. Don't dress wrong. Don't tell stories they can't control later. Don't exist too loudly. I stepped out of the car, opened the trunk, and looked at what I was holding together for them. The cake, a custom, expensive, fragile. The gifts, already labeled, already categorized. The venue key, small brass, unmistakably important. For a moment, I just stood there, the parking lot quiet except for the tick of the cooling engine. Then something in me went still. Not angry, not hurt in any fresh way. Just finished. I got back into the car. I placed the cake carefully on the back seat, buckled it in the way you do when you're used to being responsible. I set the gifts beside it. I put the key in the cup holder where I could see it. And I drove away. It didn't feel dramatic. That surprised me. I had always assumed that if I ever did something like this, something people would later describe as making a scene, it would come with a rush. Adrenaline. Shaking hands. Instead, it felt methodical, like closing a file. I drove to my apartment and carried everything inside. The cake went into my fridge. The gifts onto my dining table. The key into a drawer. I sat down. For the first time that day, no one was waiting for me to fix something. I thought about how often I'd been placed in that role, the dependable one, the quiet one, the one who could be trusted with responsibility but never with dignity. I thought about birthdays where I was told, please don't make this about you," before I'd said anything at all, about jokes made at my expense, followed by, "No, we're just worried about you." Concern, in my family, had always been a leash. An hour passed. Then my phone buzzed. "Everyone's just standing around. What happened?" I stared at the message longer than necessary. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I realized I didn't need to say anything. They were standing around because standing around is what happens when the invisible labor leaves the room. I didn't reply. A few minutes later, another message came through. For my aunt this time. "Where are you? The venue says they can't open without the key." There it was. Not "Are you okay?" Not "Did something happen?" Just the problem identified. The missing piece. I imagined them inside the venue now. Guests arriving, glancing around. Staff checking schedules. Someone realizing, too late, that all the assumptions had been built on one person quietly complying. Eventually, authority stepped in, not loudly, not angrily. The venue manager followed policy. No key, no access, no exceptions. Contracts don't bend for family dynamics. That part mattered to me more than I expected. I hadn't punished anyone. I hadn't embarrassed them. I had simply removed myself and let the systems they relied on do what systems do when shortcuts disappear. My cousin texted again. "Did you leave? Why didn't you say anything?" I typed a response, deleted it, typed another. "I'm not coming back." I didn't explain. Explanations had never helped before. They only invited debate, reinterpretation, corrections to my tone. My aunt called. I let it ring. Later, much later, I heard through the family grapevine what happened. They improvised. Someone ran out to buy a grocery store cake. Gifts were piled awkwardly in a corner. The venue eventually opened late after payment disputes and a lot of apologizing that didn't quite land. They told the story as a mild inconvenience, a miscommunication, an unfortunate oversight. They did not mention the whisper in the parking lot. They did not mention how natural it felt to hand me everything that mattered and how uncomfortable it was when I didn't return. No apology came. I hadn't expected one. Accountability would have required them to admit something they had spent years smoothing over. What surprised me was how little I wanted it. That night, I ate a slice of the cake alone. It was good, rich, made to be admired. I wrapped the rest carefully and gave it to a neighbor the next day. The gifts I returned. The key I mailed back with no note. I didn't cut anyone off. I didn't make announcements. I simply stopped showing up early, stopped staying late, stopped absorbing the quiet warnings meant to keep me small. Some relationships thinned. A few collapsed entirely. That hurt, in the dull way losses do when they confirm what you already suspected. But something else happened too. Silence returned, not the anxious kind, but the honest kind. The kind that exists when you're no longer performing for people who mistake your restraint for permission. I hadn't embarrassed them. I had just stopped protecting them from the consequences of how they treated me. And that, it turned out, was enough.